Okay. Of course, I can't see anything because I'm blind.
And then so we're recording, so we want to.
You need to,
Good evening, Mrs. Winter. I see you have your hand up.
Oh, yeah. It was, I had lost sound, but it's back on now.
oh, because we muted.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
I did bring pads of paper and pens so that if you have questions, you can write them down because I will take questions at the end.
These sorts of things to use it and then just figure it out.
Yeah, I tried to convince her that it was enough.
Thanks. We're going to get started. We're still waiting for folks to come into the webinar, so if everybody can sort of hang tight. Jean, would you like? Okay.
Jean, maybe just so we don't keep Katie waiting and it's recording, we'll just start. We'll start once she logs in and we are still in mute here, so no one can hear us.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Oh, terrific. Great. I'll just mute until you're ready, but
Great.
wanted to let you know I'm on.
Thanks. We have a bunch of people starting to come in, so we'll wait one more minute and then we'll start.
Before you push pass them.
I have to be near my computer in order to advance the slides. I have to be near my computer to advance the slides. So, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. Very excited to be here and be at this point in the in our journey together. It really has been a journey. We're going to we're gonna run through a lot in a short amount of time, but we'll get right started. So our agenda, you can see on your screen. I want to just thank Jen from the bottom of my heart, honestly, for all the work that you've done to get us here with the grant, with constantly being my support system for all things waste management. And I'm just very grateful for everything that you've done. I do want to give a quick shout out and give the floor off to our sort of surprise special guest that we have. The DEEP Commissioner, Commissioner Katie Dykes, has come to us tonight on via Zoom. I'm not sure where you are in the state this evening, Commissioner, but thanks so much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and I'm delighted to be part of this conversation this morning. This is really the best part of my job, is really getting to see all of the momentum and initiatives that are taking off, that DEEP has been able to support with some grant funds that we were able to secure over the last 2 budget cycles. We received about $10 million in budget surplus funds to launch for the very first time a program that can provide real support for communities that like Kent, that want to take action to control your waste disposal costs and advance sustainability by providing for organics diversion programs. The reason I'm so excited about this is because, and I think you'll be hearing about this in a moment, our state is facing a waste disposal crisis. You might not know it just from, every day, your trash disposal process hasn't really changed much, but across the state, we are seeing that the cost of disposing of waste in our traditional manner at landfills and waste energy facilities has doubled over the last decade on average. And so that's putting a lot of pressure on municipal budgets, which means it's putting pressure on property taxes and, forcing communities to have to make tough choices between paying more for garbage disposal or paying, investing in things like education and quality of life programs. And so Governor Lamont is really keen to make sure that we're doing everything we can to implement sustainable and cost-saving programs to help reduce those pressures on municipal budgets and take advantage of some of the innovative approaches that are out there. 22% of what we dispose of currently at landfills and waste energy facilities is actually organic material, food scraps. And we have some amazing businesses and entrepreneurs that have started up facilities over the last few years to convert those food scraps into renewable energy or even into animal feed. And the big challenge is, how do we get those food scraps from our kitchen tables to those facilities that can turn it into more valuable products? And so that's where this program comes into play. So with this $10 million, we got started this grant program. We put the call out for mayors and first selectmen and regional waste authorities that wanted to take action. And of course, you all are so fortunate to have an incredible first selectwoman, Jean Speck, who's been an amazing partner for us at DEEP, and also to be part of HRRA. Jen Heaton-Jones is really an incredible and transformative leader on waste issues and makes everyone care about garbage in a way that you never did before. So you're very fortunate to have these great leaders helping your community. And so we got 45 towns that applied. We were able to green light about 15 to move forward. And Kent is one of 4 municipalities that we recently announced will be getting this grant to help you get on your path towards more organics diversion. And ultimately, what you're doing in Kent really, really matters, because you're setting an example and proving out the effectiveness of these diversion programs, which we hope every community in Connecticut will adopt. There's legislation pending in the General Assembly right now that would enable us to have permanent funding for this grant program. We're just about all done with this 10 million that we got. We've made some incredible investments. We've got amazing momentum, but we need the legislature to authorize permanent funding for this program to go forward in the form of the solid waste assessment. And I just want to credit also Representative Horn. Maria Horn has been an amazing advocate in the legislature. She serves on both finance and the environment committee. And I really appreciate, she's really spoken up about the importance of supporting Kent and nearby municipalities to make sure that we have options to work for you. So with that, I just want to say, way to go. We're here to cheer you on, to support you at DEEP. We'll be following along the progress in Kent. We're also helping to connect towns that are doing these grants so you can compare notes and see how you're doing and what's working well and share lessons learned. So we're eager to support you, but what you're doing really matters, not just in Kent, but across the state and frankly, nationally, we're setting the pace for helping to get these valuable food scraps out of the landfills, out of the trash incinerators, and into more sustainable reuse. So with that, what better way to spend a Friday night than learning about what you all are doing? I'll turn it back to the first selectwoman, but thanks again for letting us be part of this journey with you.
Thanks so much, Commissioner. Very much appreciate it. And we know that you are super busy, so appreciate this time and don't feel, pressured to sit on our entire presentation.
I'll listen for a bit, but I've got 3 kids who are eager to start up the grill, so I'm
sure.
Clear. But thanks again. Yeah, that's
Great. Thanks so much, Commissioner. All right, I'm going to turn the floor over to Jen Heaton-Jones.
Well, yes, I echo appreciation to Commissioner Dykes. She is certainly a champion in the state. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Jen Heaton-Jones. I'm the Executive Director of the Housatonic Resources Recovery Authority, just HRA, simply how we usually go by. So I've been with HRA since 2009. We are the regional solid waste and recycling authority for 14 municipalities in Western Connecticut. You can go to the next slide, please, for me. So the HRA was formed in 1986 when the state closed all its landfills, and we went to 100% waste to energy across the state for disposal. I'm proud to say we created and implemented the first municipal organics collection program in the state in 2013, and now we have 6 collection programs and sites throughout the region, and 2 more on the way, including Kent and Bethel. Before we get started, this is the first of many informational sessions, so I want that to be very clear. This isn't like the only opportunity to get information, it's just the beginning. The purpose of this evening's meeting is really just an announcement. It's a great opportunity for the town of Kent, and this is really what it's all about, is just an introduction. We are introducing the pilot that is not mandatory, it's a voluntary system, so we're hoping folks will take the challenge. I want to thank everyone for submitting the questions when they signed up. Hopefully I will have answered most of the questions for those who pre-registered, and if not, we'll have questions at the very end. You can go to the next slide. So Katie, Commissioner Dykes, mentioned earlier a little bit about the waste crisis. I'm going to get a little bit further into it, and that's where we're going to start off. We once had enough capacity in the state of Connecticut for all of our waste. But recently, with the closing of the Hartford plant, we are now pretty much short 1 million tons a year in the state of Connecticut. So we're producing 1 million tons more than we have capacity for. We're 100% waste to energy. We have no landfills in the state of Connecticut. So we're trucking all of that material, almost 1 million tons, out of state. And it takes about 26,000 100-yard trucks to move the capacity we don't have. So it takes 125,000 100-yard trucks to move all of the waste in the state, but 26,000 trucks to move the waste we don't have capacity for. I want to mention that in the HRA region, we produce 142,000 tons of waste. So we're contributing a pretty significant amount of waste to the full system. And as Commissioner Dykes had mentioned, we are going to see cost rise in the near future because of the closings and because of the lack of capacity. So we're here hopefully to create another solution. I'll take the next slide, please. So what do we generate? We generate 3.5 million tons a year annually in Connecticut, and we have capacity for 2.7 million tons. So the shortfall is about 800,000. 22% of our waste stream is food waste, just food waste. And then there's, as you can see, 11% other organic. So just right off the bat, 33% of the waste stream could be composted. 23% of it is paper, which could be recycled. So right off the top, with just two simple things, organics and paper, we could cut our waste stream in half. And this is about behavior change. This is about people making choices. And right now, it's just really easy to put our waste in our garbage can, put it at the curb, and not worry about where it goes. Most people just worry about when will it get picked up? When will it go? Not where will it go? All of the waste, including recycling, is measured and charged by the weight, not by the volume. So I think that's an important concept to understand, and why and where we're going with this, because it is, you are paying by the weight, and these measurements are by the weight. So the heaviest material in the waste stream is food, mostly because it's comprised of water, and therefore it's heavy, and also it doesn't incinerate very well. So what should we be doing with our food waste? We really should be composting it. I'll take the next slide. In addition, I should mention that food waste also is the largest contributor to methane gas in our landfills. Okay, so Kent's transfer station, as you know, currently, you're charged $150 a year. If you're a senior, $130 a year. And you can throw away as much garbage as you want. And it sounds like such a great deal. It actually is a pretty good deal. But it's really not normal, believe it or not. Kent is only one other town, it's one of two other towns in the entire region that offers this concept of throw away as much as you want with just one set fee. All the other towns in the region basically provide a system where you do buy a permit. The permit costs anywhere, or you obtain a permit. The permit is $0 to $20. That's pretty much the average across the state and our region. And then you pay as you throw. And the system looks different depending on the town. So currently, including those who do not use the transfer station, are essentially paying for everyone else's trash, because it does eventually become part of the burden of your tax roll, right? Somebody has to pay for it. And I want to use the example of electricity or your heating bill. So what if you had a set fee every month for your electric bill? It's $200 a month. And no matter if you turned your lights on or off, you paid that $200 because essentially you had to pay for your neighbor's power. Even if you turned your lights off, someone's got to pay for it. Everybody paid the same amount. You really wouldn't want that, right? Because you would know if I turned my lights off or made some changes, I could pay less in my electric bill every month. The same for your heat. If you turn your heat down and you begin to conserve, you pay less every month for your oil bill or your electric bill if it also heats your home. So the idea behind pay-as-you-throw in a waste system is it's paid for like the utility. You only pay for what you throw away. You become more consciously minded about what you're throwing away for you and yourself, and you don't have to worry about what your neighbor's throwing away. So it's a very similar concept. And perhaps another good point to make is the average person from here to California, it's a national statistics from EPA, produces approximately 1,400 pounds of waste a year. It's about 0.7 tons. And currently in the HRA region, the cost to dispose of solid waste is just below $100, so $99.39 a ton. So for just the disposal cost for one individual disposal, not all the other costs of transportation, operation, et cetera, you're talking about $70 a year if you stick to that one, if you're sticking to the average about 1,400 pounds. But like in Stonington, Connecticut, they implemented unit-based pricing several years ago, and they're hovering around 700 pounds per person. in their town, so they cut their cost of disposal in half by a unit-based pricing system. So I'll take the next slide. So Commissioner Deitz talked about this. The town of Kent has been awarded $55,000 to introduce this pilot program for waste reduction, a pay-as-you-throw system. I like to call it save-as-you-throw. There's a lot of different ways of naming it. And it is really an opportunity, and I hope everyone will see it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to evaluate and learn and evolve and to see if we can become more economically and environmentally sustainable through our municipal solid waste stream in the town of Kent. The SMM grant program is designed to create those incentives for our towns and our regions, such as Kent and HRA. And it's for those of us who are interested, and I'm really proud that the town of Kent and the HRA were chosen out of those 45 towns that the commissioner mentioned. I want to point out that this picture in the photo is from our Danbury transfer station. It's where all the material is aggregated throughout the region. It's aggregated there and then it's shipped to Bridgeport to the waste energy plant there. And the reason why that waste is outside of the building, which never happens in the 14 years I've been at HRA, I've never seen the waste piling outside the building. That happened because of lack of capacity. The waste energy plant in Hartford had shut down. This was before it permanently shut down. It was a temporary shutdown. The turbines had burnt and they were waiting for replacement parts, and at the same time, Bridgeport shut down. And then our contracted hauler and transfer station operator had to then scramble to figure out where we were going to send our waste. They ended up trucking it out of state to landfills. But in the meantime, they had to find the transporters to do that during COVID, where it was hard to find transporters and drivers for trucks. So this is a visual example of what's really happening with the waste crisis. We are producing more waste than we have the capacity to manage. I will take the next slide. So this is a little bit of a brief overview of the scope of work. These are the phases of the plan. The pilot program is a one-year pilot. We will be working very closely with Connecticut DEP and their consultant Waste Zero to implement the program. There are no universal guidelines that must be followed when we're developing a unit-based pricing program. All unit-based pricing options offer their own set of advantages and disadvantages. And when we're looking to design this program, we as decision makers, we really need to weigh all of the factors and choose the course of action that will be right for your community, not for anyone else's community, but for the community of Kent. And I do believe wholeheartedly that involving and educating the public, and that's why I'm so pleased and happy that you are all here, whether in person or virtually, because what you have to say and your input is really important for us to drive the decisions and the direction that we'll be going with this pilot program. And so I just will quickly go over the phases. There's 4 phases. Phase 1 is what we're in right now. It's essentially the planning stage before implementation will take place between now, May and June. And then phase 2 is the launch of the program. That's our goal, is to launch in July, July 1st. Phase 3 is basically collecting data and learning from the program. And then phase 4 is planning the future. And it's proposing a permanent program based on our experience of how is the pilot working? What is the experience from the community? What other things can we learn from and improve by? I will take the next slide. So what is unit-based pricing? This is a great example. This will also address some of the questions some of the folks asked. What were some of the expected outcomes of this program? And I think this slide really represents what happens with waste generation when unit-based pricing is implemented. This is the town of Waterville, Maine, happens where my parents live. They reduced their waste generation by 54%. You can see the huge drop in waste before in the blue, and when they implemented pay-as-you-throw unit-based pricing afterwards. And this is basically a metering system. It's a variable rate pricing, and it can be used in different models, and different models exist throughout the country depending on the municipality, and that's what we're going to base our program on. Will be likely like Waterville, Maine, which is a bag-based pay-as-you-throw system. And I think it's important to also mention that, welcome. It's also important to mention that basically unit-based pricing encompasses three elements: an economic element, an environmental element, and a social element. And the economic element is important because it creates more fairness amongst all of us. We take accountability for what we are producing and not relying on our neighbors to pay for our waste, or you paying for them. What I mentioned earlier is treated like a utility. There's the environmental benefit. The pay-as-you-throw programs are effectively a tool for increasing waste separation, recycling, waste minimization. And then there's the social aspect of waste collection and their cost, and it's distributed more fairly among the population in proportion to the amount of waste that we're actually generating. And then I have the next slide is another example from Ashland, Massachusetts, where when they implemented, again, a bag-based pay-as-you-throw system, they went down 34% in their waste generation. So I only just chose two examples, and there literally were thousands to choose from, but I thought I would choose neighboring states. And we're still collecting data from towns that have been beginning to implement pay-as-you-throw programs through the grant funding from Connecticut Deep. And hopefully at our next session, I'll be able to share some of that data from within the state of Connecticut.
Hey, Jen, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just, no, in the Q&A on the Zoom, I think there might be some folks who are having trouble seeing the slides.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I will leave that to Jean to see if she can fix that. Can you see the slides, Commissioner?
I can see them, but I'm not very good at Zoom, so I'm not sure what the issue might be, but I know when you're presenting, you might not see the chat, so I just wanted to point it
Yeah,
out.
it's minimized. Thanks so much. I'm gonna,
It may be your personal setting for those who can hear me. So in your personal settings, you might need to change from looking at who might be on camera versus the presentation.
I'm asking Amy Voorhees, you had put in the chat to see if we can swap screens. I'm just looking to see what you're seeing.
So maybe while everyone's trying to figure out their technology, I'll just continue and you can listen to me. And this is recorded, so you can always go back, and I'm happy to also post our slides for folks to go back and look at. Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting a couple of comments into the Q&A that most people can see it okay. You may need to switch your view. If anybody can put in the chat how to change their view, because I don't see what you all are looking at because I'm looking at it from the presenter mode.
Okay, so let's get to the details of what this is all about for you and the town of Kent and what we hope to accomplish. This is really about taking the challenge. I hope that that's sort of how it's looked at. The goal is to launch a pay-as-you-throw program with a food scrap collection pilot program the 1st of July. And I want, again, to emphasize, we are in the planning stages. We are in phase 1. So tonight's meeting is part of the process. And it's about understanding your concerns and taking them in so that we can have a plan of your considerations. Let's see. I'm just going to quickly go back to, I'm switching some screens here. Okay, so here's the plan. And this is how the pay-as-you-throw program will work. So we know that participants will be charged a lower transfer station fee. Okay, so right now you're paying $150 a year or $130 depending if you're a senior or not. The fee is still to be determined because we're pretty much running the numbers and looking at your current tonnage and looking at your operational costs And based on that, we will then be able to determine a reasonable fee to charge at a lower rate to hopefully incentivize folks to want to participate. Each household will receive 104 orange bags or 2 bags per week. The bags are 13 gallons. That was a big question asked in the registration. It's a typical kitchen trash bag size. So each household will receive an organics collection kit. I have a kit here on the table, and I have a slide that will show it in just a moment. So the kitchen collection kit is made up of a 1.5 gallon counter bin. It can go on your counter, it can go under your sink. And it will come with compostable bags, kind of helps with the yuck factor. And then you have a carry container, it's about 6 gallons. When the lid is closed and the handle is moved forward, it has a little bit of a locking mechanism. I also recommend that if you leave it outside, you can also put a bungee cord on it. We'll get into some of the concerns about vectors and rodents and et cetera. And my own personal experience, which I have many years of this particular container and composting myself. And I'll also go over the list of acceptable food shortly. It's in another slide. And I should also mention that at the end of the program in the spring of 2024, participants will receive compost for your gardens as part of a reward of participating in organics. So the challenge is to become mindful of how much trash we are creating and disposing of using the supplied bags. If a household finds that they're using more than the 2 bags per week, they can either try adjusting their waste generation, that's one method, or they can purchase additional bags. The point would be that if you're participating, and even if you had to buy more bags, you're not going to spend more money than you did if you are participating in the transfer station now, and you're paying $150 a year. If you're paying $150 now, and we reduce the fee, we give you the bags, and you have them in your hand, and you find out that, I have a large family, I'm producing more than 2 bags a week, and you still have to buy another bag per week, you'll still pay less than what you're paying now. But you also have the opportunity to save money and try to just use those 2 bags. As we can see, there are towns across this country, and we showed you 2 examples, they did that. They took those 2 bag challenge and they accomplished that, and they reduced the solid waste by half by being mindful and learning about what can we do with waste, how do we source separate, were there alternative ways of disposal, how do we recycle more but recycle right, and doing organic separation. So another question was about the goals and expectations. It's pretty simple. We're simply looking to reduce waste and help have the town save money, cost savings to you, cost savings to the town. We do have some current data that we'll be using. We collect data on behalf of the towns and HRA, so we have all this current data that we'll be able to use to compare what's happening today and yesterday versus what's going to happen throughout the pilot program and see how well we're doing in the town of Kent. And I really hope that we're doing this in Bethel, and we'll be doing this in Newtown as well. We're launching pay-as-you-throw and organics programs in those 2 towns in complement with Kent. I'm kind of hoping that maybe there might be a little challenge going on, like see what town can reduce the most waste. That would be pretty cool, right? Maybe the commissioner will give us more money if we can prove that we can really do it. I'll take the next slide. Oh, there you go. Here's a picture of, it's an orange bag. These bags are provided by Zero Waste, which is the company, the consulting company that Connecticut Deep is working with. And the collection kit is here for those who are online and maybe can't see the table. And again, a description of what the kit looks like. You don't necessarily have to use the kit. You can use your own collection container, your own 5-gallon pail. We have a full-fledged organics program happening in Ridgefield that I've been working on since 2015. And I have residents that come with their pots, with their chicken stock in it. They come in all sorts of containers bringing their food scraps. There's no restrictions. So you can use whatever you'd like. I will take the next slide. This slide is going to talk about what's acceptable. Essentially, it's all organic waste. Like some programs only take food waste. But we really want to encourage you to, if you have organic matter, and we want to reduce your waste. So if you have flowers, dead flowers from your birthday or something you're celebrating, or if you have a house plant that died, you didn't have a great green thumb, we'll take it in our organic program. You don't have to put it in your trash. You can also deal with it at home too. We do live in rural Kent, so in a rural part of the state, so some things can be left to nature. But if you want, you can put it in the program. And the nice thing about this program, we can take bones and meat in this program, where typically you wouldn't take that in your backyard compost. Not that you can't compost your meat and bones, but typically most folks who backyard compost just don't get their pile hot enough to do a complete full breakdown of their organics so that they don't attract animals. So this is a great opportunity for folks who do have other things, other organic matter and food scraps at home that they don't have to put in their household trash. So this is a full list, and this is also what will be available on our website. It will be available throughout the program, and we'll give out pamphlets and flyers, so you'll always have it handy. The kit actually has a sticker that has all the list of it as well. Okay, so we'll take the next slide, which is the Q&A. So we can maybe advance folks to be a panelist if you want, and we'll ask everyone to keep themselves on mute. It's a pretty broad, simple overview. I didn't get too far into details because this is an opportunity to have a discussion. And I might even skip to the next slide as you're waiting for folks to join as a panelist. And I invite you to join me virtually. You don't have to come in person. This time you can stay in your pajamas at home. I will provide a Zoom meeting on June 13th about how to reduce your waste, about source separation, how to recycle right, recycle more, but to recycle right. And it really dives into where does our waste go, more details on waste to energy, landfills, the capacity in the state of Connecticut, the material recovery facility where our recycling goes, how does that work? You can follow the stream of the material, how the markets work, and then breaking down the plastic, the glass, the metal, and the paper, and what can and can't be recycled, and understanding why, what things are accepted and what things are not accepted, but really why is important. So with that,
So I've
questions?
moved everybody to be a panelist. So if you see, you should see a little pop-up window that says click OK to be a panelist, something like that. If you want to click OK, if you'd like to ask a question or comment.
And I'll take comments from here.
See Alicia Winter, you have your hand up, your virtual hand.
Hi. I'm curious about who will be doing the composting. Is it a public or private group? Is it one group or a bunch of companies? How is that going to work?
So private hauler will pick up the material from the transfer station once a week, likely a Monday, and it will take it to New Milford Farms in New Milford, where they have an indoor windrow composting facility, and it will be processed into compost, and that's the compost you'll get back in the spring of '24.
To follow up, is there any kind of state partnership with that group? Or is it?
New Milford,
if it was private?
New Milford Farms is a private business. They make compost mulch, and they sell it to even companies like Agway. And they sell it in bulk to landscapers.
I don't think, Alicia, if your question is there a state vendor or does DEEP have a unit? I don't think, I don't know if the commissioner's still on. I don't believe that DEEP has a unit that does that, does those activities, does hauling.
So it might be an opportunity to talk a little bit about organics capacity in the state. So the HRA region is really fortunate because we do have two permitted organic facilities in our region, New Milford Farms and New England Compost. Then there's one other permitted facility, which is an AG facility. It's an anaerobic digesting facility in Southington called Quantum. They make methane and they have a byproduct that they do make compost out of. And more large commercial generators go to Quantum. Then we have Bright Feeds that just opened. Bright Feeds takes commercial organic material, they depackage the commercial material, and they're making animal feed out of that. But we need to build more capacity, organic capacity for the state. In the meantime, what we're doing in the town of Ridgefield, and we will, part of the grant that we received for the town of Newtown is to build an ASP, a solar powered ASP system for the town. So Ridgefield, we received a USDA grant on behalf of the town. We built a solar powered ASP system. It's a system where it's forced air through a blower that's powered by solar panels into the compost pile for the material that's dropped off from the residents. So it's all within the town of Ridgefield. The food waste is generated in Ridgefield, brought to the Ridgefield transfer station, processed as compost in Ridgefield, and we screen it out. We had enough money to buy a very large trommel, the screen, to screen out the compost. And just starting last week, they started giving out compost. They had so much compost, they now don't know what to do with it. They might have to sell it to landscapers. They're making that much compost. So we're keeping it, the footprint, the carbon footprint of organics in the town of Ridgefield. It's quite exciting. We're going to mimic that plan in the town of Newtown. What I would love as a future vision for the town of Kent and some of our other small communities is we have on-site composting, but maybe it's not actual composting, it might be an in-vessel system because maybe you're not generating enough waste. So we'll look at the data and see how much food waste is the town of Kent collecting in this program, and we can determine what direction. Because over time, after the grant pays for the cost of collection, disposal, transportation and disposal for those 12 months, and hopefully the cost to be a part of the transfer station like you do now will cover the cost for it to be sustainable going forward to get those organics to New Milford Farms. But to be even more sustainable and to reduce cost even further would be on-site, no transportation, no driving it out of the town of Kent all the way to New Milford, and then making compost and driving that compost all the way back to Kent. We'll make compost here in Kent. They'll give it back to the Kent residents. That's really the future, right? And so that's what my hope is. Thanks, Alicia.
Any other, anybody else who's on screen? I just saw them. We have somebody in the chat who asked, how on earth do you expect people to manage with 2 13-gallon bags a week? The absurdity of that is astonishing. Contrary to popular belief, there are actually families that live in Kent. Further, do you expect not to take their trash out? Do you expect people not to take their trash out every night? It just sounds incredibly slovenly and unsanitary. I can't imagine keeping 3 to 4 days worth of trash in my house. And fortunately, it's an anonymous.
Oh, that's okay. So I can understand that there might be people who feel that this is something that they can't personally do or personally accomplish. My hope is that somebody will want to take the challenge. I have 4 children. I'm one of 8. I understand what it is to be in a big family. And yet we actually produce not a whole lot of waste because we're mindful of what we're producing. We have learned how to reduce our waste. But again, we didn't say that this was mandatory. We're not telling everyone you have to do it. We're asking people to take the challenge. If this is something that you're interested in. If you're not interested, you won't take the challenge. But if you take the challenge and you find that you can't use just 2 bags, you have the opportunity of buying more bags. So, unfortunately, it is unfortunate that maybe not everyone sees the value in this or the opportunity, but again, we're not making anyone do it.
And I think it's easier for me because I'm looking at the question. So one thing they said was, I can't imagine keeping 3 to 4 days worth of trash in my house. You wouldn't be doing that. You would be processing your trash the same way that you do now. So when my garbage bag in my kitchen gets filled up, it goes out into the barn, into the garbage, the big garbage can. And then I would take that to the transfer station. So that would still be the same process. You would then have the smaller bags that would go in the toter if that's the way you wanted to do it for the composting.
Right, and so and then this gentleman would like to ask a question, but I will also take that a little bit further, and it could, maybe they're talking about their organics too. So we have a container on our counter. It's not that container. I actually have a little stainless steel container on our counter. And then I have these bins. They're actually in my backyard, but they could be in your garage. They could be in your basement. They could be in your mudroom. I happen to use my backyard. I have a few of them because sometimes I will, and I home compost, by the way. I don't use a drop-off program even. I live in the town of Bridgewater, and Bridgewater does have a drop-off program. And they've had a drop-off program since 2015. I will admit I can be very lazy in the wintertime. I don't want to schlep across my yard and compost all of my waste. And it does sit out there with the lock bin. And I will tell you, I've never had a bear. That's one of the concerns. I've never had a bear try to get into my organics. My dog is more interested than the bear. So it's not a hard program to participate in, and if you have to do whatever works for you in regards to your own family style of managing your waste. And I don't think you have to do anything different than you are doing now with your trash. How you're managing your trash is how you're managing your trash. And if you're using the transfer station to bring it on Saturdays and Sundays, that's once a week. If you have once a week curbside collection, then you're not probably going to participate in this program, although you could still participate in the organics program, and we're going to work out how that might work for residents who still have curbside program but want to use the organics drop-off, because we still want to encourage residents to do that. I just thought I had thought about that. The curbside collection. Oh, I know what I want to say. I do want folks to think about, if you do have curbside collection, you're probably paying, the average is $25 a month to $50 a month, depending on the hauler. We have 70 registered haulers in the 14 municipalities in HRA. So I manage 70 haulers. Out of those 70 haulers, the fee to have collection ranges anywhere from $25 to $50 a month, depending on what they can get people to pay them. So you're paying about $300 to $600 a year for curbside collection, where the transfer station right now is $150. So the transfer station is actually a pretty good deal. And then if we implement pay as you throw, you're even going to save even more. So that's something to consider.
There's another question. How much do extra bags cost?
That will be, we will be determining that based on the cost of the town, the tonnage, and last year's information, and setting that fee. Can I give them a range? I would say it's going to be anywhere between 50 cents and 75 cents. And that cost, the cost of the bag will cover the town's operational cost as well as disposal costs. We have a question in the audience.
Kind of answered about the collection that was tied into, I know you got a grant for 55,000, but how much can you say this is gonna be? It's kind of seed money, right? So the participation money goes to fund the next year or something. Just wondering what is there any forecast? Is that 5,000 like interim money, or is that like the whole thing and it's done? Is it gonna disappear? Is that gonna be like what it costs going forward?
So
How much does that cost to kind of figure into fees the first year versus going forward?
So the grant money is you're right, it's a seed money. It's providing the opportunity that we otherwise wouldn't have to buy kits, to buy bags, to be able to give them away and determine cost and calculate tonnage and see that behavior change. And then when we plan out the permanent plan, which might have several different models, we will base that on how do we cover our cost without increasing cost. And it really comes down to how much tonnage we are generating as a town. If you're generating less tonnage, then you have less disposal cost. There are fixed costs that don't change, right? The pull fee that's every week, the maintenance on the compactors don't change. The labor doesn't change, but we're really looking at changing the cost of disposal. So that will all be built into what ends up being the annual tip fee, annual transfer station fee going forward in 2024. So it will all be based on this pilot program's data.
You're saying keep saying it's based on tonnage, but then they're selling the bags. Does the money come in the bags or is it come, they get weighed, you have to stay in?
So you don't have to weigh. So that's the beautiful thing about a bag system is there's no lines. It's just by the bag. There is some matrix that companies like Zero Waste have used to determine like the average weight of a bag. With or without organics is X. And so you should set your,
You have a bag full of pizza boxes or,
well, hopefully you're recycling your pizza boxes.
so that's separate, recycling is.
Recycling is separate, and recycling will be part of built into your tip fee. And then the bag, the fee
So
bag.
that'd be part of like $50 or whatever, for $100.
So your annual transfer station fee, that's right now. So let's just talk about what you have now. It's a $150 fee. That fee pays for the town to operate the transfer station and pay the cost for the material to be tipped, the tip fee, the tonnage, right? And right now, the town is disposing of 400 tons, I'm rounding up, 400 tons of waste out of the transfer station a year. If you reduce that by 200, let's say the town meets a 50% goal, and you reduce that by 50%, that cost comes out to be about $8,500 a year if we went that far, right?
Well, that tonnage there, like,
I'm sorry.
I have both collection and transfer stations because you can't always make it on the weekend. I was stuck at home for years. Where am I going with this?
It's okay, and you.
So basically, you're gonna have the access to the same facilities plus this for a lower cost. But it's less convenient, maybe.
Same convenience, same hours,
Yes, we can convert it, but
same convenience.
there's an extra payout, so it's.
All we're asking is instead of you throwing away as much as you want anytime, anything and everything, textiles, pizza boxes, there's a lot of things that folks throw away on an everyday basis that don't actually go in your waste stream. If you want to go back to that slide with the pie graph, there are textiles in our waste stream. There's electronics in our waste stream. There's the organics, there's paper, there's metal that can go in scrap. There's 90% of our waste stream today can be recycled, repurposed, reused. It doesn't have to be part of the waste stream. So if we begin to be more consciously minded with that material going to the transfer station, you're like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna bring this over to the recycling container and I'm gonna put this in the glass container and I'm gonna put the paint, my leftover paint in the paint shed. And this chair is actually still good. I'm not gonna throw it away. I'm gonna use the swap shop. And you start to think about your waste and the different ways to manage it, you might be able to get to that 2 bags.
But do you have your current data? How do you segregate that this is like household waste versus it all goes to the same dumpster and somebody dropped a truckload of concrete in there that was busted up?
Well,
Because it's gonna be, marginal.
part of the data will be looking at what is today and how did it change. And we're going to be able to see the different waste streams you have. You have a bulky waste stream now, you have a glass waste stream, you have a recycling waste stream, and you have a garbage waste stream now. And all of those streams will have an impact because everyone will start to be, well, not everyone, but we hope everyone who takes the challenge will start to be more mindful. And those streams will have an impact.
And you'd expect an increased recycling too at the same time. Right?
Correct.
Few more questions.
And if you have questions after this, you can email me. We'll have other opportunities. We'll have other Q&A sessions. This is just the first, because once we determine the fees, we'll probably want to have another informational session and also give out the kits and tags. Go ahead, Jean.
So this is a little bit tangential. I notice a lot of cars with New York plates at the transfer station with no hang tags. Perhaps if we better enforce the hang tag requirement, the town would better be able to afford trash management. It's not that we can't afford trash management. This is really to, as I sort of think about it, get the right stuff in the right place and to reduce, the matter that's that can come out of the waste stream.
Can everyone, maybe Alicia, because I can see you, can you shake your head yes, up or no? Can you hear Jean when she was repeating the question? Great. I do want to mention that out of, I have 12 transfer stations out of 14 transfer stations. We're all on the New York border. And we all share some of the same issues and concerns, and all of the towns do have concern about. Often there are some folks who come and use our transfer stations that maybe shouldn't be there. And I think it's something that we're all trying to figure out a better method for that, so we don't have free riders. So it's a legitimate concern, and I think we all have to work on that.
Yeah, I think, so, Rick, jump in here. I think the cars with the New York plates are likely transfer station permit holders who have their cars registered still in New York. But the guys at the transfer station are pretty good about knowing, I mean, they're there every single weekend. They know the cars, and when they see there's not a hang tag, they'll, engage with folks. But by and large, it's surprising how they know every car.
Next question.
Next question. If our contract says we have to produce a certain amount of garbage or we can get fined, will this affect that?
If our can you repeat the question? If our contract?
If our contract says we have to produce a certain amount of garbage or we can get fined, will this affect that?
That sounds like a put or pay contract. We do not have a put or pay contract with our solid waste.
The operator contract was at one time was so many tons per year.
That expired.
Everybody had the guarantee.
Yeah, we no longer have a guaranteed tonnage. It's a put or pay contract. We no longer have guarantees. We don't have to worry about that.
Okay. And then just a comment, I've tried to recycle pizza boxes. I'm always told they're too dirty and need to go in the trash. And I think there is often some confusion about how, and I think how dirty is too dirty for recycling, which is going to be the next trash talk on June 13th.
Join me June 13th.
Yeah.
We'll get into the dirty details of trash talking.
And I think it depends to this person, anonymous attendee. It does depend. I mean, if they're contaminated and very greasy and dirty and has a lot of food waste on them, they can't be recycled.
Right. Use your discretion to understand whether you believe it could or couldn't be recycled based on how greasy the pizza box is. You can always tear the top off and recycle the top and throw away the bottom. Any other questions?
Just another comment. Regardless, people from New York are disposing of garbage at our transfer station without paying for it. People from New York are contributing to our town.
Well, I'll let the town work on that. I can't answer that question. I'm sorry. Is there anyone here who wants to ask a question?
I don't think they're bringing their trash from New York. It's their house that they have here. Their car is just registered.
Anyone else? Well, I hope at least gave you an introduction of an idea of what we're hoping to accomplish and conceptually. And we will continue to plan. We will be working with Waste Zero and Connecticut DEP very closely throughout the scope of work. And I welcome comments. You can email me at info@hra.org, or Jennifer, if you got a pamphlet, my email is on the notepads. And we will be building a landing page for the town of Kent. If you want to visit hra.org now, you'll see that there are landing pages for our other towns that have organics programs. So they're very comprehensive with all the information of how the programs work and how to get your questions answered. And when you have concerns, you can call us. So we want to be engaged with you. So we hope that we...
One more last question. Can a family participate in just the composting component and not the 2 little bags?
I am hoping that we can accomplish that and provide that opportunity as we have for other municipalities throughout the region, yes. Because at the end of the day, I would like to see us all get organics out of the waste stream, even if you use curbside collection.
Everybody.
We'll decide, we'll make everyone get a kit. as part of, even if you're paying the standard 150 still, it should be an additional service, right?
So, participate.
What data that they are.
Yep, folks who want to participate in the organics drop-off program will receive a kit. And we are determining now, based on guidance from Waste Zero and Connecticut DEP, whether to give the kit for free or to
That cost is like $20.
put the money back into the program. Yes, charge a small fee to cover it.
So just one more reminder, we're gonna have a sort of, no pun intended, deeper dive on trash with Jen on June 13th. And thanks everybody for coming out there in Zoom land and here in the room where we can see everyone's legs. And we'll post this to the Town of Kent website. Jen's gonna post it to our Kent page on the HRR website. And we'll probably put something up on Facebook and send out an email just to let people know that that link is available. I think that's. Any questions?
Thank you, everyone. It's good to not be able to see.
I know. Thanks, everybody.
There you go, that's, you should have been in that mode.
Yeah, I should have turned off my screen. Have a good night, everybody.